Hello and welcome to Internet School. My name is Isaac and today we'll be having a look at Photoshop. This model I'm using at the moment is Photoshop CC, but this tutorial will also be useful for CS6 and CS5 and I think any of the ones before that. But if you have any Photoshop before CS5, then you probably should update. Okay, so before we start, what is Photoshop? Photoshop is a image manipulation and like graphic designs bit of software that the majority of people use. This is just going to be a very basic introduction to the software. It's just for the people who have no idea what it is. And then further down the line in the series, we'll get into more complicated things on how to draw stuff and how to manipulate images and all that kind of stuff. So if you already know how to use Photoshop and you already know the layout and everything, then just skip this video and move on to the next one. Now, before we start, I ought to point out that Photoshop is a very expensive piece of software. It can run up to anything to about 800 to £1,000. It's very expensive. However, there are ways around it as usual. Just search. You could probably find a free version somewhere. But yeah. Okay, so let's get started. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a new file. So we're going to go File, New, and here we go. Here is our options for our new file. So what we've got here is we've got presets. So all of our different sizes and stuff we can use. So we're going to go to International Paper, which has all the sizes of paper in it. So we're just going to create an A4 piece of paper, and we're going to call it Tutorial. Resolutions, you either want to have 72 or 300 depending on what you're trying to do. 72 is the most pixels per inch the naked eye can see, so anything below that's a bit pointless. However, 72 is good if you want to keep the size of the file down but still look HD. I'm going to stick to 300 because I think 300 is the best, because it's just safe that you know everything's going to look good. So we're going to keep it at 300. We're going to move the color mode to RGB, and we're going to click OK. So here is our piece of paper. Now before we start anything, you'll notice over here it says background, which is our layer. Now Photoshop works as a layer software, so you create layers upon layers of stuff and you edit layers independently from each other. Now as you can see, this layer has a lock symbol around it, which means that you can't edit anything in this layer. This is just for safety reasons for your background, so you don't accidentally meddle around with the background, so you just keep it plain and white. You can undo this just by double clicking on it, and it will come up with this system, so you can just type in any name. I'm just going to keep it as layer 0, and if you click OK, it will go away, and now you can edit on it. Or you can go down to these things here and you click this one that looks like a new piece of paper, and that will create a new layer. So that's how you create new layers. You can create as many as you want, really. If you've got too many layers, you just right click and you click delete layer, and it will say delete the layer, and you just go yes. That's how it works. So we're going to stick to the top layer for this point, which is layer 4, and we're going to have a look at all the different options down here, which are all your tools effectively. So the first one we've got is the move tool, which means we can move things around. For example, if I've got my cat here, it's locked because I've just imported it, so I'll just unlock it. And what we can do is with the move tool, we can hold it and we can drag it and we can bring it into our tutorial like that, which is fairly simple. Quick hotkey thing here, if you press Ctrl Z, you'll undo, so you can just get rid of it. However, if you want to get rid of more than one step, you do Ctrl Alt Z and then just keep tapping Z, because Ctrl Z will only undo the most recent one. So that's how to move stuff. Then we've got the marquee tool, which is you can drag it over something and it will highlight everything in it, and then obviously you can go to the move tool and you can actually move that bit around. So that's quite useful. You've got other shapes. You've got elliptical marquee. Oh, to get rid of it, you can't just press delete because it will just get rid of everything in it. What you do is you go up to select at the top here and you press deselect and it will get rid of it. The elliptical, that's the word, Marquee tool is just the same, but it's a circle. As usual with these softwares, if you press shift and then hold it, it will make a perfect circle. That's how you make perfect circles with that. And then this one is the lasso tool, which is kind of like the marquee, apart from you just drag and you can make any shape you want out of it. So like that, and then obviously you can move that around. That's how that works. You've also got a polygonal lasso tool, which is kind of like it, but you just tap where you want the corners to go. I don't really see the point of this one, but I suppose it's for straight lines when you want to cut out straight lines. Okay, next one, this is your quick selection tool. What this will do is it will select everything it thinks is the same object. So for example, if you hold it down in this, it will select all of the animal's hair, like that, because it thinks it's one object. And then what you can do is you can move that, you know, make him bald, all that kind of stuff. That one's very useful. It's a very useful bit for starting off image manipulation, just moving things around from images. That's useful. And cutting images out. You've also got this one, the magic wand tool, and what this will do is if you tap, it will highlight every bit that's the same colour. So it will do this, and then this is just for if you want to get rid of backgrounds, you can just press delete and the background's gone, and all you've got left is my wonderful cat here. And then obviously if you get rid of the background, you can drag it and bring it into the tutorial. Perfectly fine. It's got no background, there's nothing on it. So that's how that works. And deselect. The next one is the crop tool. You know, fairly simple. Crop things. Doesn't need a lot of explaining, that one. The eyedropper tool, which will tell you which colour is currently selected. And what it will do is if you see up here in this colour thing, this palette, it will change the colour to the colour you want. Also, if you open up this colour palette by just clicking on it when you want to change colour, it immediately becomes the eyedropper tool, so you can just click around and find the colour you want if it's already on the page. So I don't think there's a lot of point having it here because it's just in here, so you don't need to worry about that. The spot healing brush tool. So what this brush does, the healing brush and the spot healing brush, is basically for photographers. It's basically like airbrushing. So it will get rid of blemishes on skin if you're using that kind of thing. It won't work on this kind of stuff because it's not really blemishes. So I don't think we'll ever use this in my tutorials, but if you want to know more about it, or if you're a photographer, then look it up. It's a very useful bit of tool. Next one down is going to be our most used one, which is the brush tool, which is your very basic, I'm going to draw stuff. So what it does is you change the colour of it over here, and you just draw to your heart's content. It's pretty simple. You've got its options up here, so you've got the size of the brush, you've got the actual brush itself, so there's lots of different presets here. There are ways of making your own brushes, which I will touch upon in another video, but you know, you can change all this kind of stuff. So you can change it into weird brushes and all this kind of stuff. There's some pretty cool ones like leaves, kind of looks like birds, yeah, that kind of thing. So if we get rid of all of that. You've also got the pencil tool, which is kind of the same, but it's just really thin. It's only 1 pixel wide. You've also got its opacity. Oh, I forgot about that. Its opacity here, so you can change how opaque the brush is. And then you've also got its flow. Now the flow changes how smooth the brush looks. So as you can see here, it looks like there's tiny circles. If you reduce it down, there's nothing will appear. So let's just bump that up a bit. Oh, as you see. So it just obviously changes the flow of the brush. If we get rid of all of this, we move on. We've got the stamp tool, which is effectively how you make your own brushes. We won't touch upon that right now. We won't touch upon the history broth either. We've got the rubber, so obviously fairly simple. You've got a brush, you want to rub it out, done. Easy, that kind of thing, yeah. We've got our gradient tool, which what it'll do is it'll create a gradient depending on the two colours you have here. So if we change this to orange and then do a gradient, it'll change it to orange. So this is quite useful for creating backgrounds and stuff for things. It's quite a cool tool. You can create quite a lot of different gradients in it. So you could, depending on how far you stretch this line, is how strong the gradient will be. So if you just do a tiny little one, it will only do a little. But if you do it all the way, it will make a big gradient. Yeah. And then you've got your paint bucket tool, which is just filling things in. Obviously. We've then got the blur tool, and what this will do is if we take a couple of colours here, so you just take that colour and we want to make the opacity and the flow back up to normal. We just create a circle here out of this colour. What the blur tool does is, obviously what it says on the tin, we'll change the size up. It blurs the edges. I don't think that was really working there. No, it probably wouldn't. Let's just create it down. It's just if you want to create shading kind of thing. So if we create like that, we go to the blur tool. You can see it's blending it together. If we bump up the strength, you might be able to see it a bit better. If you can see that, yeah, I think you should just take my word for it. It's the blur tool. We will be using a bit of it in further tutorials. We've got the dodge and the burn tool here, which are the same kind of thing, except instead of blurring it, they shade it. So, for example, if we create a lighter pink here, and then we burn it, it'll kind of start to blend it into the background. So as you keep going, every time you take your pen off, it will make it darker. So same thing with over here, it'll just keep making it darker. So that's quite useful. You've also got the dodge tool, which does the opposite. So it makes it lighter. So they're very useful. You've got the pen tool, which is a very useful kit. It can be used for two things. One thing, it can be used as a quick selection tool. So if I want to select this, you just tap around it, and you can then right click and it'll say make selection, and you'll go OK, and then it's your selection and you can move it around. Or if you want to make curves, you tap once. Oh, it'd be better if I was on the pen tool. And then you tap again and you can curve it. So that way you can make curved shapes like that. And then obviously you make selection. You click OK and that's done. What you can also do with the pen tool, if we change this back to black with the pen tool, is if we just create a very basic box here. If you right click, you can see it says stroke path. If you go to that, and it's already clicked on brush, but what it'll do is it'll follow the lines with the brush. So it's a really useful tool for making outlines for rough sketches you've done. So if you're creating like a character and you've done a rough sketch of it, then you just follow it around with the brush, the pen tool, and then you can fill it in and it will look perfectly smooth instead of all your brush strokes. So that's very useful. You can also fill it, so you just fill it with black, okay, and it will fill the inside of the square. So those are two very useful things. The pen tool is a very useful and very versatile bit of kit with Photoshop, so we'll be using a lot of that. We've then got your text tool, so you just text hello. Obviously with the text you can change it. All of its options are up here. You've got font, you've got the type, so you can change it to bold or italic, all that kind of thing. You've got the size here, so you can make it really big, be helped if I've highlighted it. It's kind of like Word. It's really big. You've got different types of outlines for it. So we're just going to leave it as sharp. You've got where positioning. You've got colour. You've got warping of the text, which is quite cool. So you've got stuff like arc, where you can arc it and then you can change how much it arcs, all that kind of stuff. That's very useful. You've got lots of different ones. You've got shell, which is quite cool, where it'll go like that. Or flag, all these kind of stuff. Squeeze, twist. It's quite a good one. You can really twist it. So yeah, that's it for the type tool. You've then got the path selection tool, which when you highlight something, is it working? No. Oh, well, it doesn't matter, we're not really going to be using that. We've then got the shape tools, so you can create shapes out of these, and you can fill them. You can also create a border, so if I want a yellow border, and I want quite a thick one, I'll bump it up to, I don't know, 10. Kind of thing. You can change the height or the shape of it. You can change how curved the corners are, so you can just go, you can go like 22 on that one, and it will curve the corner. So that's quite useful. You can also, I'm not sure what that does, but there you go. Something I didn't know. I've never really used this tool before. You can create different shapes, so it's quite useful for creating circles, because it's very hard to draw circles, so you can just create circles like that. You've then got your zoom tool. We won't worry about the hand tool. Obviously, zooming in and zooming out of stuff. You can also fit screen, and you can also fill screen. So that's quite useful. You can also change it. You can also put it to 100%, so we'll just go back to fit screen. You've then got your colours, so you've got your foreground and your background colour. The main point of these two is you can switch them around, so you can have two colours selected at the same time. So if you have blue and red, and we go to our pen tool, oh, yeah, we'll just rasterize that. We'll do blue, and then you swap it over. Just click this arrow here, and then you can colour it in red. Also, when you're doing gradients, those are the two colours of your gradient. So if we put a gradient in, where's the gradient? There it is. Sorry, I was looking at the paintbrush tool. And if we highlight down, it'll change it from blue to red. So, and then you've got this one will change it from colour to black and white. So that's pretty obvious. Then you've got you can change what the screen looks like. Oh Jesus. Yeah. And you can change it back. So that's what that does. Then we've got all of our bars up here. So we've got one of the very useful things is the filter gallery, which what this will do is, Christ, that's big. Is you can, there's all these different effects. It'll be better if I use a different image. So if we take my cat again and we go to filter gallery, we can do is if we zoom out a bit, there we go. All of these do different things to your image, so you can create some really cool. Oh, he loses his eyes there. That's odd. You can create that's quite cool. You can create a lot of different effects. There's loads of different ones. You know, there's textures. There's only one stylized, which is glowing edges, but that's quite cool. You've got sketches, distorts, loads of stuff, and brush strokes. So you've got all of these, and they've all got altering slides and stuff. We might use a bit of this. I'm not sure. What we've got the layers, which is just effectively what you've got over here, just as a tab. You've got image. If you go under image, you've got the mode, so you can change it from color to grayscale. Adjustments, you can change the brightness, contrast, the levels, all of this kind of different stuff, which is also over here. Here are your adjustments. So you can change the brightness of the contrast of your images. Put that back to 0. You can change levels. You can change curves, all this kind of different stuff. But we won't go into that in too much detail today. You can alter the image size if you want. You can also change the resolution. You can rotate the images. Under edit, you've got a fill function, which oh, I've got all of these. Let's just delete these a sec. You've got the fill option, which will fill your current layer with the colour you choose here. So you've got white, or you can just click colour and you can choose a colour. So we'll just click red and we'll go OK, and it'll fill it with red. So that's useful if you just want to fill a colour. We've got this thing called transform, which is how you scale your images, so you can change the scale. Obviously, if you don't hold down shift, you can just fly around, but if you hold shift, it will change it in proportion. You've also got, under here, you've got rotate, skew, distort, perspective, warp, all these different kinds of things. So with warp, you can change what the paper looks like, which is quite a cool one. So you can, this one I mainly use for text, so if I want text to appear as if like it's moving away on a sign or something, then you can use this warp tool. You've got brush presets, which is how you create your own brushes. We'll be going into that a bit later on a different video. You've got keyboard shortcuts, so it'll tell you where all the shortcuts are for the keyboard. And all of that's pretty much it. You can change the menus as well. And also, here are your windows, so if you want, I don't know, if you want your history to appear, you can click that and it will come up here, and you can bung loads of windows on here, all the ones you want, and they all appear. So if you're ever lost or anything, you look for something in the window and it'll, if I'm using something in a later video and you can't see it on my screen, it'll be under this window. So just look for it. I should tell you, but if I forget, that's just a heads up. Okay, apart from that, I think that's effectively it for the introduction to Photoshop. Obviously, you've got your save as. You can import and export stuff, all that kind of stuff. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed this, and stay tuned for the next video where we'll actually start doing some experimenting with Photoshop and we'll start learning how to draw and stuff. So, I will see you on the next video.